Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another Burlingame. It's a small-town podcast sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. This is Mark Lucchese, also known as Mark at the Mic. And before I introduce my guest today, just a quick background. He was employed by the Burlingame Recreation Department for 24 years from 1973 to 1997, serving as Recreation Supervisor. He is also one of San Mateo County's most successful basketball coaches, having been named Coach of the Year on several occasions. He has also been elected to 3 separate Hall of Fames, the San Mateo County Hall of Fame, the Daly City Sports Hall of Fame, and the Sacred Heart Atherton Hall of Fame. My guest today, the great Mike Ciardella. Mike Ciardella, thanks for visiting Burlingame and coming back and being on the show today.
Quite an honor.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
Mark.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
So you come back to Burlingame very often?
Try to.
Yeah.
You know, I have grandkids playing high school sports, so I was over at the soccer, watching a soccer game about a month ago, saw a football game over there.
Yeah.
Have watched baseball games at the park.
Great.
Yeah, I get by here occasionally.
And I think you were about an 18-year resident of Burlingame, living
Yes.
over on Cambridge.
Yeah. Yes.
That was what, 87 to 2005, something
Yes.
like that? Yeah.
Yep.
And now you're in Redwood Shores.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I kind of was reading your notes and your bio, and you grew up in Daly City.
Right.
And but you went to Cal State East Bay,
Right.
which was at one time Hayward State.
Correct.
Living in Daly City, why didn't you just go to San Francisco State?
So the reason for that is I got out of the College of San Mateo. It took me a while, but I got out of the College of San Mateo. I wasn't the smartest.
That's okay.
The smartest guy going. But anyway, I got out of the College of San Mateo in January, and I had applied for that semester at State, and I got turned down.
Uh-huh.
But Cal State Hayward was on quarters.
Right.
So they started in March.
Got it.
So I got accepted to start that March.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I did.
Okay,
it. And at the time, you know, I was thinking about this. It used to take me 35 minutes from my house, which was a half a block from Jefferson High School off of Mission Street. It would take me 35 minutes to get to Hayward. 35 minutes. Now?
No, that's not bad.
No. And that was at that time.
Now it's an hour commute.
At least.
At least, right.
So now, you know, then there wasn't the traffic that there is now.
Right. It's brutal.
I mean, I'd get right on 101, get right to the San Mateo Bridge, and boom, right across.
Yeah. If you don't get out of there by 2:00, you're stuck on the bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the reason why.
Okay. What about the rec major? You were a recreation major, correct?
Right. I started as a recreation leader in Daly City for the Daly City Rec Department when I was 18. And I had a supervisor, a gentleman named John Cannon, who actually lives right across the street here.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was a rec major at San Francisco State. And he encouraged, you know, he sort of started encouraging me, hey, you know, you need to look into this.
Yeah.
You know, you know, it's a good profession.
Right.
You know, you make some nice money, blah, blah, blah. And so I did. And State had a good program, but so did East Bay, Cal State East Bay. And that's how I got involved. I mean, he encouraged it, and I did it.
So once you graduated, you had your degree in recreation. Did you come to work for Burlingame right away?
No.
Okay.
No. So I worked, they hired me in Daly City as like a program coordinator. Mm-hmm. So I was like an assistant to the supervisor,
right.
to Mr. Cannon, actually. And so I did that for about another, maybe a year or a year and a half. And then, you know, and during that time I was taking tests. You know, I took a test in San Bruno. I took a test in Santa Maria.
These would be city tests?
Yeah, city tests. And then the opening came here. A job was open in Burlingame. And I had a supervisor in Daly City who knew Ray Wagner pretty well.
Ray was the leader at that time.
Correct. He had taken over for Ed Lincoln.
Right. Okay.
And so I came down, took the test, and then went through the interview process, and he hired me.
And you became what at that time?
Recreation Supervisor.
Supervisor.
Right.
And
Ray was the director.
Got it.
And then there were 3 of us, 3 supervisors under Ray.
And who were they? Do you remember?
Charlie Gitter's wife, Lois, who at the time was Lois Gast,
Yeah.
And
right.
then myself, and I just can't remember the third person.
That's okay. I'm just going to ask this question because we'll get to this part in our second part.
Linda Kelling.
Who was that?
Linda Kelling was the third.
I remember that name.
And she went to Cal State Eastway.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, when you were in high school, where'd you go to?
Jefferson.
Jeff. Yeah. Okay, and obviously Cal State East Bay. And the sports part we'll get in the second half of this interview. But did you play basketball and all that in high school?
Yes, I played basketball. I was a swimmer, and I ran cross country.
Yeah, but I mean, you really excelled in coaching basketball.
Right.
We'll get to that later on.
Right.
I just needed to know that. So, okay. So did you actually did you take Ray's place when he moved on? Is that how that worked?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Ed Lincoln retired, Ray became the director.
Correct. Right.
And so that's when the job opening occurred.
Yeah. And then that was what, you were here 3 years at the rec center, and then you became the director?
No, never the director.
Okay.
I was always the rec supervisor.
Okay. Did Ray stay on as director then?
Yes.
When did he retire?
He retired before I did.
Yeah.
So I got out in 97.
Okay.
I want to say probably 90, maybe around 94, 95.
Do you still talk to Ray at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had lunch with him. We have a group of guys that I worked for me and worked for Ray.
Yeah.
So we had a luncheon about 2 months ago.
Oh, that's great.
Up at the Village Host.
Terrific.
And there were like 7 of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. The Village Host, that's a little plug for my buddy Ron Santero.
Yes.
Okay.
Ronnie
Santero, yes. Have you ever met the new rectorate? What do we call it now? She's called the, they named it something else.
Is it a manager or something?
Yeah, she's like Recreation Director, Park and Recreation Director, Margaret Glomstad. She's a hard-working lady. Got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so you never met Margaret?
No.
And when you were there, did you guys have anything to do with the parks, or was it just specifically rec department?
Originally, I could be wrong with this, but originally we were only recreation.
Yeah.
And I think as time went on, no, you know what? I think we were always recreation.
Yeah.
Now that changed.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that Ray was a recreation. Rich Quadri was the park director.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Ray was the recreation.
And now it looks like Margaret's wearing both hats.
Yeah, she probably is.
Yeah. So Ray Wagner was kind of a mentor for you then?
Yes.
All those years?
Yep.
I'm going to give you a couple of names that I remember coming over to the rec center for many years. And you mentioned Charlie Gear.
Yep.
You knew Charlie, of course. Rick
Charlie was a recreation leader who Ray hired.
Yeah.
So when I came in, Charlie had gone on.
Did he leave the area?
Yeah, he ended up being a professor at Texas Tech.
Wow.
I think it's Texas Tech.
That's great.
I'm thinking it was Texas. Yeah. Texas Tech.
Here's our little,
Lubbock.
Yeah, really?
Lubbock, Texas.
It's a little sidebar that'll put everybody to sleep out there. His mother was like my 5th grade teacher at St. Catherine's here in Burlingame. So anyway, Mrs. Gear. Oh my gosh. Rick Foley?
Yeah, Rich Foley.
Rich Foley. Yep.
And Don Foley, his brother, worked for me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. Rich was a principal.
Yeah.
And then I think he worked for the San Mateo County Education Department.
Yeah.
But he was also a basketball official.
Oh, and he was into it big time.
Yeah, both him and his brother, Don, were officials.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about Don. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
How about the great Carl Reyna?
Love Carl.
Yeah.
Carl, 24 years, 8 o'clock every morning in my office.
Yeah.
Without ever stopping.
That's
Used to call me Chubby. Chubby Char, that's what he used to call me. Hey, Chubby, how's everything going?
That's funny.
But Mr. Cappuccino.
Oh, God, terrific.
So a funny Carl story. Carl used to come into the office and he'd give me the rundown of, how Cappuccino was doing, how this guy was doing. But it was funny. On Fridays, Cappuccino used to play afternoon games, football. Then we had the district field at Burlingame because it wasn't just Burlingame that played over there at night. It could be anybody.
Because you had the lights.
Yes. And that was the only lighted field.
Right.
So Carl used to get a ride up to Cap for the afternoon game. So he would stop off at Sam's Sandwich. Mm-hmm. He'd get one of those, nice big Sam's Sandwich. You know that place.
Absolutely.
He'd go up, eat half the sandwich at Cappuccino, and then somebody give him a ride down to the Burlingame, and he'd catch that game and eat the other half of the sandwich.
That's, it's funny when you say that. My wife and I had a little store in Millbrae called Cappuccino Market right down the street from Cappuccino
I remember that.
High. We often gave Carl a ride home or back to Burlingame to the high school for the game, right? That's how it worked.
Yeah.
And Carl was just here in the neighborhood.
Yep.
Just a few blocks from the rec center. So
yeah.
Anyway, how about Brock Riddle?
Brock was my intern.
He was.
Yeah. So I remember Ray telling me, "Hey, we're going to have an intern." I said, "Okay." And he said, he's at San Jose State, so you need to go. You have to go to this introduction thing, but put on by these San Jose State people.
Right.
So I go down. I'm thinking, what's a Brock Riddle, right? Nothing. I love Brock, but I always thought, what's a Brock Riddle, right? So I go down there, and sure enough, he had played baseball at Sequoia High School, also played at Kenyatta College, and he hit it off. We hit it off, and Ray liked him, and somehow we got him hired. Somehow he became a full-time employee.
Yeah, he was around here for quite a while.
Yeah.
Then his wife passed.
After he left, yes, cancer.
Tough time, right? Tough
breast
time.
cancer.
So whatever happened to Brock?
Well, after he left the rec department, he got into appraising.
Okay.
And I'm not,
I have a feeling he's not in the area anymore.
No, he's not. And I think his son Jeff is still in the area.
Okay.
And Garrett, I'm not sure where Garrett. You know what? Garrett might be in San Diego.
Okay.
Brock moved to San Diego for a while.
Yeah.
And I went to a funeral for a guy that worked for us, Joe McLean.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, and
passed away.
Yes, and so at the funeral, Brock was there, and I hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
So I want to say he's up north somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he got remarried, I think.
Yes.
Good for him.
Yes.
Brock was terrific.
Great guy.
Yeah, he and my brother, I think, met here at the rec center. And, worked under you and all that good stuff. So, back in the day. And I know we now call it the community center, Back in the day, then, when you were at the rec center with Ray, do you remember how many classes were offered in that booklet that came out? And did it expand much?
Yeah, so here's the deal on that. Ray was a real budget type guy. I mean, Ray, you didn't waste any money with Ray. That's how Ray was.
Right.
God bless him.
Yeah.
And so when Prop 13 came along, we were all afraid we were going to lose our jobs, right? They were going to cut this and cut that. Mm-hmm. And so Ray said, we had a meeting, and Ray said, hey, we have to come up with, we got to figure a way to make some money, to balance this budget. And so we started talking about having classes and charging a resident fee, a non-resident fee. And that's what we did. And anybody that came in that had a good idea, wasn't just...
So that's where that whole process developed?
That's how it developed. Now, when I first came there, they had classes, but I don't want to say there weren't a lot, but they had a good amount. But then once like I said, once that proposition came in, we had to come up with ideas. I mean,
very creative.
We had to bring in money,
right?
And so. Like this, I remember with me personally, I had the adult softball leagues. I had to jack the prices up a little bit, not to where it was outrageous, but just so we could, balance it out.
Yeah.
Just so the money came in and it made things right. And but Ray was good at that. Ray was a promoter. He promoted our department.
Yeah, he did a lot.
He was a good boss, but more importantly, he was a good. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sharp
and he was
guy.
way ahead of his time.
Oh,
because we were one of the few departments that started doing things like that. Mm-hmm. We were one of the few, and it just grew. I look at the program now and I think back. This was Ray's.
Yeah. Well, one thing I liked about Ray was I took a volleyball class or joined a volleyball league one night for a season, and Ray came in one night like 8:00 at night, right, just checking in, making sure everybody's having a good time. Were there any issues? And I kind of like that, right?
Yeah. He was a hands-on guy.
Absolutely, and he was a great ball player too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So, how large of a staff back in those days did the rec center have? And I'm talking paid employees and even volunteers. Do you have any idea? Do you remember that at all?
Well, we never had, like I know myself, we never had assistants. We didn't have programs coordinators like I was in Daly City.
Right.
We didn't have that. So it was myself, Lois, Linda, and then Linda eventually left, and Brock. So there was actually three of us.
Yeah.
And then I think Brock took Linda. Linda's left, went into education. And I think Brock took her place.
And then you played off a lot of volunteers, right?
Yes.
Helping here and there and all that.
Yeah, yes.
With the summer baseball league, the rec league, they would call it.
Yeah, we hired rec guys, rec leaders.
Right. Pretty cool. Was it hard? I guess back then it was probably hard to get money from the city then to work on the budget, your budget, because of Prop 13.
The city was never, in real bad shape because of the hotels.
Yeah.
Right? The hotels and that whole area, the restaurants and all that.
Yeah.
So the city
was... The car dealerships as well.
But, I mean, there was a fear, when this proposition went in,
right.
Nobody knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. But because classes, you guys got creative, made some classes, pay for the class. I think that obviously we
had a non-resident fee,
Yeah.
I mean, we had the non-resident.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when we had a Saturday where we had our first registration for all these things, whether it be summer, winter, fall, winter, whatever. But I can always remember that the residents had the first opportunity.
Yeah.
So the residents had Saturday where as many residents as wanted to come in, starting Monday afternoon. Then Monday morning was still residents. Starting Monday afternoon, it was non-residents. And we get a line of people.
Oh, I bet. The classes were great. There was so many. There was a good variety, something for everybody.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a feeling that, and I hope I'm right on this, when you were at the rec for all those years, the Recreation Center, were the Friday night dances still going on?
Correct.
They were?
Yeah.
Okay, so help me with this because I just can't remember. When did they end? Do you remember what year?
I know when I left in 97, they were still going on.
You're kidding.
No,
wow.
They were still going on. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure. And the interesting thing with that is Ray ran that.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
So he ran the junior high dances.
Did he book the bands and all
yes,
that? No kidding.
And he also ran the high school dances.
Wow.
So Burlingame High never ran dances over there. The dances were in the rec center.
Yeah, so there were no gym dances. They came over to the rec center.
Right.
Any idea why they stopped the Friday night dances at the rec? Probably, I'm assuming, I'm guessing it had to be probably neighbors.
I'm not so sure about that.
Okay.
I think the high school eventually took the dances back.
Okay.
And then the junior high, I don't think they have the junior high dances anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of that.
Yeah. So you worked at the rec for 24 years, right?
Correct.
Why'd you move on?
Just something different.
Okay.
I was 50 years old.
And you had been coaching all this time,
correct,
right?
Correct. Yeah. And that's, as a matter of fact, I told him this a couple of months ago, Ray, he allowed me to do that.
Yeah.
As long as, I worked a lot of Saturdays. So as long as I covered what I was doing, he was okay with it.
Yeah.
He didn't have a problem with it.
And your wife
it was never an issue.
Right. And your wife had to be real strong to support you in that kind of stuff.
Well,
at the rec, coaching basketball.
It ended up to be like I had 2 different jobs.
Yeah.
And there were it was a lot of hours.
Oh,
I would have practices when I was coaching, because I started with Mercy High School. But when I was coaching those girls teams for 8 years, and then of course the boys at Sacred Heart, I was the AD. But when I was coaching those girls teams, the practices couldn't be at 3:00. They were either sometimes at 5:00, sometimes they were at 6:00. So I'd start at like 7:30 in the morning, wouldn't finish till, maybe 9:00 at night.
Right. So you'd leave here, be done with the rec center.
Right.
Would you dash home where you lived on Cambridge and then head over to Mercy?
No.
Or what? Just go from the rec center to Mercy?
Well, Mercy to this day doesn't have a gym.
Oh, so we're...
Here's where we practiced. I worked out at, I knew the people in the school district because I used to run the after-school sports programs for them. So I knew the lady in the business office there, and they had closed Roosevelt School, and I knew there was a gym there.
Got it.
And the funny thing about getting hired at Mercy High School is I had worked with Mercy High School. They'd played softball at Cuernavaca Park. I'd done some things with them, given them some facilities.
Yeah.
And Cheryl Nash, who was the AD there, was a good lady and nice. I got to know her pretty well. So there was a friend of mine who just passed away recently, Ray McDonald, Sr. He had a daughter that was going to school there. And in the middle of October, prior to this season starting, the basketball season starting, he calls me on the phone. Now, his daughter didn't play basketball. He goes, hey, they need a basketball coach. I go, yeah? He goes, you think you'd like to do it? And I go, Ray, first off, they don't have a gym. Second of all, I'm not practicing in December out on the blacktop.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
Nor am I going to practice on the blacktop in January. I said, but if she would like to talk to me, yeah, I'd be willing to sit down and talk with her, right? So she calls me on the phone a day or two later. She said, Mike, do you think you'd be interested in doing it? I go, on one condition. What? I said, I don't have a problem playing all the games away from home. We don't have a home court. That's fine. I got to have a place to practice. I go, you have to find me, try to find me a place. She tried for about a day, called me back. I can't find anything. Okay. Well, in the process, I had called this lady at the business office in the school district and said, hey, you guys don't use Roosevelt. And I know we use it at night. I know we use it at, I think it was 6 o'clock or something. It'd be possible for Mercy High School to use it after school? She said, yeah. I said, what would you charge them? $5 a day.
No kidding.
I go, $5 a day just to pay the electricity.
Wow.
I said, okay.
That was very
so I
gracious.
called her. Now, the court was about as big as this room.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
And we would have 20, we'd have 2 teams in there. We'd have the JVs and the varsity.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got by with it. I mean, it was fine. And, we did pretty well. We were very competitive. We had a good group of sophomores when I came in there. The seniors didn't like me, but the sophomores did because the sophomores were the best players.
Right.
But anyway, that's how that started.
Did that sort of start your coaching career in the high school scene?
Well, prior to that, I had helped Don Nowitzki at Oceana High School. I had coached his boy at BIS, Jeff Nowitzki, who went to Mills and then later on ended up playing basketball. Well, he was a high jump. He was a 7-foot high jumper in high school.
Wow.
Ended up going to Arizona State, but the coach for Arizona State was the high jump coach, the head track coach. He ended up becoming the Olympic high jump coach.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
So he left Jeff's first week at the school.
Oh, shoot.
He leaves.
Wow.
So he never materialized. So he ended up coming back here, playing basketball at Skyline College, and then he went to San Jose State and played. But anyway, his dad was the coach at Oceana, and I had coached the boy in 6th grade, 7th grade. And he finally asked me, he goes, hey, you think you could work something out where you could come over to Oceana and help me? I said, yeah, I think I could do that. Let me talk with Ray. Well, one thing led to another, and it worked out.
God, that was great.
So I helped him for 3 years, and then
I'm going to stop you for a minute.
Go ahead.
Because we're going to roll right into your coaching career.
Okay.
And I'm going to rattle off some of the schools that you've coached at. Now, if I'm incorrect, just say so. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. You're right. And this is a variety. You did a variety of Peninsula high schools.
Correct.
And you coached boys and girls, or
Correct.
men's and women's.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
we want to spin that. So, Oceana.
Yep.
Burlingame High.
Yep.
Mercy High.
Yeah.
Sacred Heart Atherton.
Yep.
Notre Dame Belmont.
Correct.
Help me with the Jewish name. The Jewish
Kahila. Yeah.
Thank you. Mills, and then you kind of wound up your career at Hillsdale. Is that correct?
Okay.
Did I miss something?
Yeah. When I retired from Notre Dame, when I went to Notre Dame, I didn't really coach basketball. I was the AD.
AD, right?
Okay. When I retired in 2009, I went to work for the college, and I was the women's assistant basketball coach.
Okay.
From 09 to 12.
So you touched on college basketball a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. We'll get back to that because I want to. But then you moved on to, say it again, Kahila.
Yeah.
And then Mills and Hillsdale.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. During that time, did you have a preference, men's or women's, or did it even matter to you?
To me, it was basketball.
Yeah.
And to them, it was basketball.
Yeah.
I never treated it any different. I mean, to me, they were athletes. I mean, I didn't treat it. I never treated it any. I never looked at it as anything different than coaching basketball.
Yeah. So let's talk about Sacred Heart Atherton for a minute. I think that's where you had most of your success. You had a lot of success, but it seems to me Atherton, Sacred Heart was a lot of success.
Yes.
I mean, you were there for what, 91 to 96? That's 5 or 6 years, something like that? Okay.
Right. And then I became the athletic director.
Right. And I'm going to spill out the what happened there, right? 5 league championships.
Correct.
5 section championships.
Yeah.
4 Northern California championships.
Yeah.
And 4 state championships.
Right.
That's mind-blowing, Mike.
Right.
That's incredible.
So also with that, and I'll just point it out because it's something I think at the time Sacred Heart only had 240 students.
It was co-ed, right? Oh, was
correct.
It,
so I went there in 91. That was my first team. Mm-hmm. They had become co-ed. It was a boarding school. It was the nuns, the Sacred Heart nuns. It was a boarding school for the rich in the city.
Mm-hmm. Never knew that
at one time.
Right.
In '86, they went co-ed. Okay, so when I went there in '91, there were 240 kids in the school, 160 girls and 80 boys.
Wow.
Now, when I was first there, the nuns were considering closing the high school. Mm-hmm. And just having there's a preschool and all that to 8th grade.
Yeah, just keeping it to that.
That's what they were thinking of doing.
Yeah.
But then, success. We had some success, and the name of the school got out there, and they had some really good people that promoted the school and got it going, and things started to grow. I mean, now it's 640 kids.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about that, we were a Division 5 school. So the first state the first state championship we won in Division 5, which was the smallest. It was by enrollment now. They've changed that now.
Have they?
It's an equity thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, then it was enrollment. Okay. But at the time, you could move, if you thought you were good enough, you could move out of your classification. Okay? So my second year, we were pretty loaded. I mean, I had a transfer come in.
Did I see Division 1? Did I see
we
that?
moved to Division 1.
Yeah.
So we played Division 1 2 straight years. And then the last year, we went back to 5 because, we were good, but we weren't at that level.
Right.
So we started in 5. Won 2 and 1, and then won the last one in 5.
Yeah, amazing.
And then in '99, when I was the athletic director, the enrollment had grown, so we were Division 4. Right. And they won the state in Division 4.
So was that when you were athletic director and coach at the same time, or did that happen at Notre Dame? Where was that? Didn't you do something?
At Sacred Heart, I coached the boys with my son Tony.
Okay.
And that was 3 years. That was '99 to, I think it was 2001.
Yeah. So you were kind of flip-flopping back and forth between the ladies or the guys and the gals.
As a matter of fact, with the boys, we won 2 league championships with the boys.
Wow, terrific.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a guest on the show a few months ago, and not your good buddy Ed Larios. We had him on the show. As a matter of fact, he's a coach down at Sacred Heart as well. So we had Doc Shepler on, and
I was at Ed Larios' wedding.
You know what? I think he told us something.
He was my in PE. He was my locker mate.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was a sophomore. I was a freshman.
Yeah. Ed had some great stories.
And we've been friends forever.
Yeah, Ed's great. Okay, so Doc Shepler, he's had some great success down at Pinewood.
Very successful.
I think he's got over 500 wins and just a few, maybe 100 losses, give or take. Did you ever play him?
Once.
Yeah. Was it a league game? Was
CCS final in Division 5.
Okay, you tell me how that went?
We won pretty easily. But that was, that in defense of that, in defense of him, that was their first, that's when he was first getting the thing going.
Got it.
That was his maybe his second year
Yeah.
at Pinewood.
Yeah.
Because I think Casey was at Sacred Heart as a freshman.
That's his daughter.
Yeah,
correct?
she played for me as a freshman.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her only state championship is at Sacred Heart.
Wow. That's a small circle, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific.
But the second year, I think it was his second year, and he was just getting it going. I mean, I knew eventually they were going to be good.
Yeah.
It was only a matter of time.
Yeah. Doc was a lot of fun and had a lot to say.
He worked for me at the Rec.
I believe
baseball, summer baseball.
I believe it. That's great.
Pete Jensen,
the great Sarah coach.
He worked at the Rec. He worked for us in the summer.
Yeah, I think that's how my brother met a lot of these guys.
Yeah,
he went to high school with Doc, so that was part of it.
Yeah,
but, pretty cool stuff. Coaching mentors, coaching heroes like Tara Vanderbilt or the Gino Ariema.
My mentor is the man that I played for at Jefferson High School, Mick Kelly, who recently passed away last spring. He was, I wasn't a great player. I mean, but I watched. I probably watched more than I played at times. But I watched, and the things that he taught me, I just kind of took with it and ran with it. And when I graduated from high school and was going to junior college, the honor that he gave me is he asked me if I would go out and scout teams for him. Wow. And I thought that was, and I learned so much.
I was going to say, what a learning experience.
Well, I remember just sitting down with him and going over all these things.
Yeah.
Hey, this guy can do this guy can do that. They do this. They're good at this. They're not good at that. And the things, I just remember that season, how important that was for my personal career. And I was 19 years old at the time.
Boy.
So that was something that I'll never forget, because that kind of gave me the impetus, because he once told me, you could be pretty good at this.
Yeah. It's nice to hear that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of creates a fire within.
Yeah.
Gets
and
the
so,
passion going.
and the interesting thing when I was thinking about when you sent me the little questions there, I've coached at every level. I started when I was 19 with playground, in Daly City. I had playground teams. Yeah. I had flag football, I had basketball. So I had playground. That's where I started.
Yeah.
But then eventually the school that I went to grammar school at Holy Angels Grammar School in Colma there, and I eventually coached a team there. Started with them when they were in the 5th grade, took them through the 8th grade. They're in their 60s. Now they're probably retired.
Yeah.
But that kind of was the impetus, and then of course, I came here and even when I was here, I was coaching teams at BIS. I was coaching teams at Washington.
And learning, watching and learning, huh?
Yeah. And then, of course, I learned a lot from Don Nowitzki, a really good game coach. He wasn't, his practices were okay, but he was an outstanding game coach.
Yeah.
And then Frank Firpo.
Burlingame High?
Yeah.
Yep.
And practice, he was a teacher. So every day that you would go in, he'd hand me a lesson plan. I mean, that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
And it was timed, 3:15 to, 3:25. We're gonna work on passing, or we're gonna work on dribbling, or we're gonna work on our offense. He had it all mapped out. And I always thought that was, that was one thing that I didn't write. My practice is I didn't write things down. It was all up here.
But you had it in your head.
Yes.
That's how you wanted it. You coached the same way.
And I know during games I think, geez, tomorrow we got to work on this because we're not very good at this right now, right? And
So speaking of that, did you have a certain way, like Doc was kind of noted for his, he told me, his 3-point shooting, and he was quick. Their girls were quick.
He's a very good shooting coach.
Defense. Did you have anything that you did like that? I mean, was there something that you sort of leaned on?
Well, we were pretty good at man-to-man defense. And I emphasize that with most of the teams that I coached. But we also, in my later years, we played some zone. I had watched Tom Martinez at the College of San Mateo. He was one of my mentors. I sort of grew up with him. And he was, he was probably one of the most successful community college coaches, ever.
Yeah.
He coached football. He coached one of my sons in football.
I know he coached football. I didn't know he did basketball.
Women's basketball, and he did women's softball.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot from him. And the funny thing about Tom is that he never played basketball, but he's the kind of guy that could have coached anything. He could have coached tiddlywinks.
Amazing.
He's just that kind of guy, really smart.
It's a natural coach.
Exactly, exactly. So I learned a lot from him. He had a zone defense that he used. It was like a matchup zone.
Uh-huh.
And I took some of that.
Yeah.
I took some of his in my later coaching life.
Right.
Earlier I knew nothing but man to man because that's what we were taught in high school.
Uh-huh.
If you played zone, it was like a mortal sin to play zone, right? I mean, seriously.
But as time evolves, you learn different.
Yeah, nobody in those days played zone defense.
Right. All man to man.
Yeah, all man to man.
So you mentioned you did a little bit of college coaching at Notre Dame.
Belmont. College of Notre Dame, whatever you want to call it.
But there was no, you didn't want to stay in college basketball?
Well, they were in the Pac-West Conference. So there were teams, they were Division II at the time, which I don't know that they should have been because they really, we weren't afforded it. I think we had enough money for one scholarship.
Uh-huh.
Some of the teams that we played against had 10 scholarships.
Boy.
They were scholarship teams. So the Pac-West Conference, there were 4 schools in Hawaii: Hawaii Pacific, Hawaii Hilo, BYU Hawaii, and Chaminade. So when you went on a road trip to play those teams,
you'd stay there and play all 4 because you can't be going back.
Correct. So you'd be there for 8 days.
Yeah.
Practice, play,
yeah,
so on. We also, at the time, Grand Canyon, which is now Division I, and Dixie State, which is now called Utah Tech. They're both Division I. But at the time, we played them. So when we played them, fly into Phoenix, practice, play the game on a Saturday, fly out the next morning to Las Vegas, get in vans, drive to Dixie, which was St. George, Utah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Go there. You would play. They had a beautiful arena, by the way. Old arena, but it was an arena.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, which was a Tuesday, we would fly back to Vegas and then drive back to Vegas, catch a plane back home.
Come back.
I didn't really like the traveling.
Right.
I'm kind of a homebody.
Yeah.
I liked the home games were great.
Yeah.
But the travel, I didn't really like the travel.
I could see how the wear and tear could get out.
Yeah. I mean, like Hawaii. Everybody's saying, "Boy, you got to go to Hawaii." Yeah. Well, that's great, but it wasn't a vacation.
Never left the gym.
No, it was a work
right.
day, right? I mean,
big time.
So
yeah.
I mean, it was. We had one good season, and the other 3 were mediocre, but they didn't want to put any money into it. You know.
Well,
I mean, and we're playing teams.
Right.
Yeah, we're playing teams with, full 10 scholarships.
Yeah.
So we're talking about scholarship kids.
Yeah.
They're given financial aid, which was not a whole lot. So, yeah.
And that's not an inexpensive university to go to.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I'm going to touch on athletic director for a minute.
Sure.
Let's see, 97 to 04, Sacred Heart.
Yep.
Okay. 98 to 01, you were a men's basketball coach and AD at Sacred Heart?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you left Sacred Heart, I guess, and went to Notre Dame in Belmont.
Right.
Why'd you leave Notre Dame?
There were a couple of issues, not bad issues.
Okay.
But at the time, they were looking for an athletic director. I was looking to work another 4 or 5 years. I wanted to retire at 62.
Yeah.
It was right up the street from my house.
Okay.
It would take me 5 minutes to get, maybe 10 minutes, to get there.
Right.
The other thing is, I started the football program at Sacred Heart Prep. There was no football, obviously, when I went.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
we started the football program, I think it was in 99. So I got that off the ground. We ended up building a field. I mean, it's quite different now. When I go there, I'm amazed at what they've done.
Of course.
But the whole thing was, I was brought in there to get them off the ground, to really formulate a competitive program.
Yeah.
And I think I did that.
Was it hard leaving Sacred Heart? I mean, you were kind of a legend there.
Well, I was there for 13 years.
Yeah.
You know, it got to the point where it was, you know what, it was time to leave.
Uh-huh.
It was time to go.
Yeah.
You know, I'd done pretty much all I could do.
Right.
And this looked more attractive for the mere fact that it was not as much work. It was only girls.
Okay.
I knew the principal very well, and I knew some of the staff there. And I went in there and I had to build some things. They wanted a new weight room. I hired a trainer, an athletic trainer. There were a number of things that I did there that they've continued with today. So, you know what, at the time it was a good move.
Okay.
You know, it was a good move.
Okay, and then that sort of ended your athletic director career?
Correct.
In 12, I guess, right? 2012?
No, 9.
9.
Because 9 to 12, I was at the college.
Got it. Great. You know, I'm looking at this. Well, then you went on to the Jewish school in Palo Alto.
Okay.
Say it again.
Kahila.
Kahila.
So the catch there is one of my ex-players from Sacred Heart was the athletic director. Okay. And I wasn't doing anything. And she called me one day and said, "Hey, would you like to help me?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Sure." You know, I don't have anything to do.
Is that school still there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where is it?
It's off of San Antonio Road.
Okay. Because I'm familiar with Pali High. And
Yeah,
Gunn
yeah.
High
It's
School.
off of San Antonio Road. It's kind of pushed back. The Jewish Community Center, the Peninsula Jewish Community Center, is right across the street.
Okay.
And that's the gym that we use because they didn't have their own gym.
Right.
So
what kind of enrollment did they have at that particular high school?
it was pretty small.
Yeah,
It was, maybe 150.
Yeah, right.
It was tiny.
Yeah. You did girls basketball there?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Then in 2013, you coached a year at Mills High.
Another ex-player that I coached as Dave Matsu, who just passed.
Oh, boy.
Stroke at 54.
Gosh, okay.
I coached him at Franklin School, and I coached him at BIS when he was a 7th grader. And then he was an assistant for me at Mercy, coached my JVs at Mercy for 3 years. Then he became the head coach at Mercy when he was 22. And then after a couple of years at Mercy, I brought him to Sacred Heart Prep, and he coached the JVs at Sacred Heart Prep.
Terrific. Wow.
Yeah. So he always wanted me to come to Mills.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I'll do it. The only problem there, and I would have stayed there a little longer, they practice at 6 o'clock at night.
That's getting
and
a little
me living
late.
in Redwood Shores.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, that's when Oracle was at
what?
its pinnacle.
You need a helicopter to get in and out.
So me trying to, I'd have to leave the house at 4:30 for a 6 o'clock practice.
Right.
And I'd get there like at 5:30, watch the boys at Mills practice a little bit. By the time I would get home, it'd be 9,
Yeah.
And I finally said, Dave, I can't do this.
Yeah,
This is
a little too much.
Yeah.
And that Oracle congestion was amazing. So.
Yeah, now it's not bad because there's nobody there.
Right, nobody goes to work anymore. It's funny. So then the last 2 years, 2014, 2016, you ended up at Hillsdale High.
Right.
Okay. So let's get to that for a minute. Hillsdale High. What was it like your last year? Did you know that you were going to hang it up in 2016?
I was diagnosed with cancer.
No kidding.
Yeah. Prostate cancer.
Wow. So that's how it all came about.
Yeah. So I had a rough go for about 6 months.
Oh, it's a real rough go.
Yeah. For about 6 months, I had a rough go until they figured out what to do. And,
yeah.
So
you're a success
It's been in
story.
remission. It's been in remission. It got out of my prostate. Yeah. So I had a spot on my spine and a spot on my hip.
Yeah.
But it's the medication I've been taking has been in remission.
Are you still taking medication?
Yes,
How often do you go back and see a doctor? Every 3 months or something like that?
Well, I get blood tests every 3 months.
Yeah.
But I don't, we email and talk on the phone. I don't really have to go into his office unless there was a problem. But it's been in remission for almost 7 years.
Terrific. Congratulations. One of my best friends, my college roommate, he was on the show last year. We did a whole show for prostate cancer awareness, but now I'm going off we'll talk about that off mic, okay? So that's what ended it for you. Oh, you just said that's it. What was it like playing your last game? I mean, you must have known this was going to be your last game at Hillsdale. I mean, was there a lot of emotion behind that?
We played a CCS quarterfinal game at Mills High School, and we played Saratoga. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And they beat us pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They were good. We were up and down. That year we were up and down. The prior year we were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, after that with the cancer, I was kind of not laid up, but I wasn't doing well for about 6 months. Then I kind of rebounded, and then a good friend of mine, Steve Pickey, who coached the girls at Burlingame High School when they won the state championship
Mm-hmm.
in '88, he was coaching Sequoia, the girls. And we were having dinner one night, and I said to him, "Hey, you need an assistant?" And he said, "Why, you interested?" I said, "Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I got nothing else to do."
Good.
So I was there for the last 4 years of high school.
Yeah.
From 17 to 21.
No kidding.
Yeah, we went through the pandemic thing, the whole.
Right.
But
you
we
jumped
won
back
two.
in.
We won 2 CCS championships.
Wow. Great.
First girls CCS championships that they won in any sport at Sequoia. So that was kind of exciting.
Yeah, and then did Steve Pickey retire as well?
Yeah,
because he's living out in the valley.
Yes,
isn't he?
exactly. He's out in Patterson.
Yeah, Patterson. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
So
I remember my brother remembers Steve Pickey very well.
Oh yeah.
So
he's an old rec guy.
yeah, he's an old wreck. It seems like they're all around, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, great stuff, Mike. Okay. I got a question here. Any tips on what it takes to become a successful winning coach? I mean, what is hard work? I know that, but what goes into that? You want to be a successful winning coach.
You want to, obviously you need players. That always
right,
helps.
That does help.
But maybe you don't have players.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's more challenging. Preparation, scouting,
Mm-hmm.
doing the off season stuff. Now they do so much more than what we did, but we played a lot of stuff. We did a lot of stuff in the summer when you could do that kind of
Right,
stuff.
uh-huh.
I mean, I remember one summer we played at one of the Sacred Heart teams I had. We played 45 games. We were
That's
playing.
a lot of.
We
that's
were
high
playing
school?
like 4 days. We were playing like 4 days.
And that was
these
allowed?
these girls, to their credit, were into it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and don't you love that?
yeah,
They're into it.
And the other thing is, you want to go out and you want to look at things and
Right.
see what works, what doesn't work. A lot of it is just being around the block, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it is,
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was coaching Molly Goodenbauer, if you know that name.
Went to Stanford, didn't
Yes.
she?
She was my assistant. That was
Really?
her first coaching job, was the 94 team at Sacred Heart Prep. And she had just graduated from college. Okay, so she's like 22 years. She could have been my daughter.
Yeah.
She's the head coach at USF now.
Terrific.
So, and I see her, I go to some of the games.
Uh-huh.
So she's helping me out. She's never coached, right? She thought she was going to be able to go to France to play basketball, and didn't work out. And I got introduced to her through a friend of mine, and I said to her, "Hey, she said, I'm kind of interested in coaching." I go, "Okay, I could use your help," and she said, "All right." And so the first game we're going to play, and I always kind of scheduled the team that I knew we would beat,
Mm-hmm.
right? She comes out with a little clipboard, right? And she says to me, "So what do you want me to keep?" "What?" And she goes, "Well, what do you want me to keep?" I go, "You see that guy over there?" And I had an old timer that used to be my stat guy.
Right.
He's the guy that keeps the stats.
Uh-huh.
I want you to coach.
Yeah.
She goes, "Well, okay, well, what do I do?" And she said, I said, "Well, when I'm on the ball, you're off the ball. So you're telling me what we're doing well off the ball, what we're not doing well, right?" I said, and it's on both ends, defensively, offensively. That's what we do. Or if you see something and you wiggle in my ear and get in my ear and tell me, you may suggest 99 things and I may only take one of them.
Yeah.
But you just keep suggesting.
Right.
So it was funny. First couple of games, pretty quiet.
I bet.
Didn't say a whole lot.
Don't want to say a lot, right?
So during practices, she would take the guards because that's what she was. And I used to like to work with the post kids, right? So about the 5th game, we were playing. We weren't doing very well. And she got mad. And it was funny because it was the first time she showed any kind of emotion like that, right? She says to me, Coach Mike, what? Call a timeout. So I call a timeout. I just step back. She gets in the huddle. She just whacks, she's just all over these kids,
lit
right?
them up.
She lit them up. They go back out on the court. It's funny. About 30 seconds go by, right? We start to play better, and I kind of knew we were eventually that would happen, right? Tap her on the knee. So, you like being the head coach? She goes, what? I go, you were great. And she goes, oh my God, I didn't even realize what I was doing. I go, no, it was fantastic.
Right.
I go, that was great. That's what that's what you should do.
Yeah.
Right?
Big step forward.
Yeah. But about a month or two later, maybe it was about a month, just talking about going around the block. We're playing down in the Santa Barbara Tournament Champions. It was a Christmas tournament. It was the best tournament in California at the time, girls. And we're playing, it was a 4-day tournament. You played, 4 games. We're playing in a semifinal game, and we're playing a team that pretty quick, pretty athletic, and we were a step slow defensively. So I call a timeout mid-second quarter, and I had scouted them the day before. And I call a timeout, and I said to her, I looked at her, and I said, we're gonna have to switch to a zone. And she goes, what? And it was like, she had never played zone.
Right.
Her high school coach, she's from Iowa, she played for a really good coach in Iowa. Now she comes here and she plays for Tara, obviously. She says to me, Mike, a zone? I go, yeah, we're going to play a zone. She goes, but we hardly practice it. I go, we practice it enough. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I tell the kids, and they're looking at me like, a zone? They're looking at me, why? Just have faith in me, right? We go back out, we play the zone. They can't make an outside shot, and I knew that. And so ends up we outscore them like 20-2. So she's sitting next to me now, right? And she says to me, she taps me on my knee, and she says, shows you what I know.
Yeah.
I said, hey, you've been around the block twice. I've been around the block 2,000 times.
Yeah.
And that's kind of...
It all evolves, doesn't it? It's a learning process
Yeah.
from coach to coach.
Yeah. So I had her that one year, and then she ended up playing, I think there was a women's league, American Basketball League. It was the ABL prior to the WNBA.
Right.
She ended up playing in that, and then she went overseas. I think she played a year. She might have played a year in France.
Yeah.
She didn't have a long pro career, but she,
Yeah. Well, she's coaching now at USF. I mean, that's great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff. All right, so now you're all retired. You're a grandfather.
7 times.
7 times.
6 boys.
No kidding.
Triplets.
So there's what? Are you kidding?
No.
Wow.
They're juniors now.
Where?
At Cap.
Oh, wonderful. Really, at Cap?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Jeez. So you have one girl, you said 7?
One, she's part of the triplets, Madison.
Yeah. So how old are the kids? Give me the oldest to the youngest, I guess.
Joseph is a sophomore at Arizona State. That's Tony's oldest.
Yeah.
Bobby, who's Tony's second one, is a sophomore at Hillsdale. He's a wrestler, and he's water polo. Joe was a high jumper and a water polo player at Hillsdale.
Yeah.
They're at Hillsdale. Tommy, who's his youngest, is in 6th grade at St. Gregory's.
No kidding. Wonderful.
Then Todd is the middle one. The triplets, Travis, Callan, Madison. And then their younger brother is a freshman at Cap, Drew. Travis plays football. Well, he's a junior now. He started on the varsity football team and the varsity baseball team as a sophomore. Pretty, he's a good little athlete.
Yeah.
Not little, I mean, he's pretty big.
Yeah.
Madison plays tennis and plays softball. Callan is probably going to put somebody on the moon. He's into all the tech. Right, he does all the tech stuff.
That's great.
He likes skateboarding.
Yeah, that's
but he's
great.
not really.
Yeah, it's okay.
And it's all right.
Everybody has their way.
And then Drew is a soccer player.
That's too much. That's wonderful.
So I go to a million games.
to say the least.
Yeah.
And you remembered all their names. Congratulations on that. That's terrific.
Yeah.
So that going to the games takes up your time. But I also saw a note there that you are involved in something called Fundamental Hoops.
Fundamental Hoops.
What's that?
That was it's a camp or a clinic that was started by my son Tony. Mm-hmm. We actually don't do it anymore. We haven't done. I mean, it's still open. We could do it if we wanted to, but he's busy with the family now.
Right.
But we used to run it. We did it for about 4 or 5 years. We ran it out of the Highlands Recreation Center because Tony knew up there in the Highlands area.
Yes, right.
Above CSM.
Yeah,
there.
I had to think what that was, right?
Yeah. So Tony knew somebody there that was one of the park and rec, one of the recreation people up there, and so we ran it on Saturday mornings, and we had different age groups, and we did it for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was fun.
I bet.
Worked with little 6-year-olds all the way up to
kind of going back to your roots, wasn't it?
Yeah, all the way up to 12-year-olds.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Love of the sport.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And your health has been good?
Health so far, knock
Great.
on this table.
Yeah. Great career.
Fortunate.
Great career, man. Rec supervisor.
Yeah.
4 or 5 times coach of the year.
Yeah.
Hall of Fames.
I've been fortunate enough to never have a boss.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
They were always my friend.
Yes.
I never looked at it as they were my boss.
Right.
Our relationship at the rec, I had Ray.
I know, yeah.
And then when I went to Sacred Heart Prep, and he's still at Sacred Heart Prep, Rich Dioli, who at the time when I went there was the dean. He saved the school.
Yeah.
His ambition. He was a lot like Ray.
Yeah.
Similar personalities, outgoing, promoting things, that kind of stuff. And I worked for him for 13 years. Yeah. And once again, he was a friend.
Yeah.
They were friends. They weren't really my boss. I never, like I told somebody, I never had a boss.
Yeah, not a great thing. Isn't that a great feeling?
Yeah.
Just you enjoyed your work right up to the end.
Yeah, and you know what? They just let me do my thing. Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate that, and even at Notre Dame, I had a wonderful woman who was the principal there, Rita Gleason, who was grew up in Redwood City.
Yeah.
And really loved sports.
Yeah.
And she knew that athletics was a way to promote the school.
Absolutely, and raise money and all that other stuff. I know it costs a lot of money, but it raises a lot of money too.
So she knew that was a way to promote the school, because I remember one time I told her, Rita, they don't write about the debate team in the San Mateo Times or the San Mateo Daily. They write about your sports teams.
Yeah.
And that's a way that people get to know who you are and what you are.
And it increases enrollment. It's just a way to go.
Right.
Yeah. So before we go, you're wearing a pretty big ring on one of those, on your, and that doesn't look like a Cal State, East Bay or Hayward State.
No.
What is that?
This is Sequoia High School, our 2 CCS championships.
Wow. That's a gorgeous ring.
Yeah, 2019 and 2021.
Terrific. Yeah.
But I do have the state ones.
But you wear this one typically, or what?
Yeah, it's the last one. I mean, and I like.
I wish our listeners could see that, because it's really cool.
Yeah, it's the last one.
Great. Coach Mike Ciardella, thank you so much for coming today.
Mark, it was an honor.
Yeah, thank you,
and
Mike.
A pleasure.
I hope we had some fun, right?
Yeah, we did.
Thank you, Michael.
I'd like to thank Mike Ciardella for being my guest today on Burlingame. It's a small town podcast sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. Thanks to Kathy and Shelby Lucchese for editing and producing, the great Ray Tyler for video. Original music by Bray. You can hear more of Bray at braymusic.com. The Burlingame Historical Society copyrights this program, and no part can be replayed without the permission of the Burlingame Historical Society. This podcast was recorded on Friday, February 16th at the Burlingame Public Library. So until next time, everyone, see you around Burlingame. It's a small town.